Bonjour and bienvenue à la Roar podcast. Sorry, I just got out of French class, so I'm kind of in a francophone mood. Anyway, my name is Erica Kenny, and welcome back to the Sunrise podcast. We are on our third edition now, and I'm so grateful to you all for sticking through it. Today, as you can see, pun intended, this is a special edition. In my efforts to learn more about broadcast journalism, I am producing the first ever video version of the Sunrise podcast. This might be a recurring thing, it might not be, we'll see. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy this episode. Today, we'll be focusing on a topic very near and dear to my heart, college. Specifically, the very unique process of universities in the United States. The question we will be seeking to answer is college worth it? College enrollment rates in the United States have been dropping since 2012, and the pandemic has only fueled declines. The reason for these drops range between the quality of jobs available after high school to the cost of college itself. But the big picture is that less and less Americans are choosing to go to college. I myself often wonder why I'm putting myself through the stress of application and financial aid when I could just graduate and try my hand at the job market. This leads us back to today's question. Is college worth it? Are modern teens and 20-somethings right to forgo higher education? Let's hop right into it. First, I'd like to start off with a modern history of college in the United States. Even though institutions like Harvard and Stanford have been around for hundreds of years, the origins of the college system that we know and love today started around 50 years ago with the end of World War II, more specifically with the passing of the GI Bill. But before the GI Bill of Rights was passed, only around 160,000 people in the United States went to college. 3 years after the bill was passed, that number rose to around 500,000 people. This bill offered returning veterans grants, scholarships, and stipends that reduced the cost of them to go to college. Many veterans took advantage of this, and the number of those enrolled in college ballooned. Some might think that this would be a one-time boom of enrollment, but actually the bill had ripple effects. Veterans who graduated college raised their economic class, and when they had children, they were more likely to be able to afford to pay for their children to go to school. This continued with subsequent generations until going to college after high school seemed like a natural progression of education rather than an extra step to take. Back to the veterans, though. These new students were different from the typical college students of the past. Before the bill was passed, typical college students came from an upper middle class to wealthy family and came to college to truly pursue a higher level of education. They enrolled in majors like philosophy, English, and history with the intent to continue their education after the bachelor's into their master's, maybe even get a PhD. After this, they would become professors and permanently attach themselves to the higher education system. But the veterans didn't do this. Instead of the traditional humanities majors, veterans enrolled in more practical majors like business. Because most of them came from a working or middle-class background, they valued a degree that translated more closely with a job in the workforce rather than in academia. We'll come back to this trend, though. In the meantime, let's talk about the growth of one of the biggest reasons why many people today are not choosing college, and that is student debt. The modern student loan industry and practice as we know it today started in 1965 with the passing of the Higher Education Act. This bill allowed private businesses and banks to offer college students government-subsidized loans. Previously, only the federal government had been able to give student loans. This act was amended in 1992 to create the FAFSA system, direct lending program, and unsubsidized loans. All of these changes resulted in students having to bear the burden of interest on their loans instead of the federal government. However, we cannot only look at the student side of this equation, because the institutions themselves also have a role in this. For 20 years, the cost of a college tuition has risen steadily. The fees for private universities have increased 134%, out-of-state tuition has risen 141%, and in-state tuition has risen 175%. As of 2022, the inflation has only increased 65%, by the way. Overall, college has gotten much more expensive, and has become easier and more normalized to borrow money. This has resulted in more than $1 trillion of student debt in the United States. When thinking about the reason why students are avoiding college, though, student debt is a rather obvious answer, and politics has known about this for a while. In fact, the Biden-Harris administration has issued an executive order to try to deal with the situation. In August, the administration announced a plan to forgive $10,000 of federal student loan debt per borrower and $20,000 for Pell Grant recipients. Out of the $1 trillion of debt, this plan would forgive about $430 billion worth. Currently, 16 million people have already been approved for this forgiveness. Since August, this plan has been blocked and unblocked multiple times. The most recent challenge has come in the form of a Supreme Court case. Legal experts think the court will permanently block the Biden-Harris plan, leaving even the little forgiveness that it offers off the table. That is how the student debt crisis stands up today, but one aspect that isn't covered enough when talking about why the value of college has fallen is the change in our cultural mindset. In the past, college was largely seen as the only option after high school. If you wanted to accomplish anything in your life, then you would have to go to college. The question wasn't why you would want to go to college, but why you wouldn't want to go to college. However, with the rising costs, this mindset has changed. The number of community college enrollment has dropped 13%, and that number is 6.6% for all colleges and universities. The pandemic has affected this. Many students did not view online colleges as worth the money and chose instead to go into the workforce after graduation in 2020 or 2021. However, those students who chose to go into the workforce are not returning as students. More and more students are seeing the rise in wages for unskilled workers and calculating that the wages they can earn today are worth more than a potential rise in wages after getting a degree 2 or 4 years in the future. For many students who do choose to go to college, though, the admissions process might be changing. In October, the Supreme Court heard oral arguments for a case involving affirmative action. Affirmative action as a practice started in the 1960s with the lead-up in the passing of the Civil Rights Act. It involves businesses, and in this case colleges, using race as a factor in hiring or admissions decisions to ensure a diverse workforce or student body. Affirmative action should not be confused with quotas, which are such as hiring one Asian worker for every 10 white workers, which have been ruled unconstitutional. In the college admission process, affirmative action works like this. When you apply to a college or university, you check a box indicating your race, gender, and more recently sexual orientation. The colleges use your identity as a factor in their admissions decision, just like it uses your grades, extracurriculars, and work experience. This is in service of ensuring a diverse student body. Challenges have come for this practice, though, saying that it is essentially a type of racial quota, which is unconstitutional, and that it can be discriminatory to Asian and white students. Regardless of what the Constitution says, though, the Supreme Court is likely to overturn this practice. The court currently has a 6-3 conservative majority, and if the vote happens along ideological lines, then affirmative action will be overturned during the ruling in June. Throughout the year, several states have stopped the use of affirmative action practices, so we can get an idea of what will happen to the diversity of student bodies across the country if this practice were to be overturned. After California banned affirmative action, Black students at the top seven of their public universities fell from 7% to 3.5%, just 1% of the students. Studies have also shown that in the states that have banned affirmative action, Latin and Black student populations falls initially, then bounces back, though not in a way that keeps pace with the rising number of Latin and Black student graduates. The fall of affirmative action could also discourage minority students from even applying to some more competitive universities, or even applying at all. The students who do choose to go to colleges are often not seeking the stereotypical college life, though. Most colleges and universities that you've heard of, like Harvard, Howard, the University of Maryland, are what would be considered liberal arts institutions. This means that they aim to teach students a broad range of topics that will prepare them for roles in leadership after they graduate. Even if a student is only interested in history, for example, they'll have to take math, science, and English-based courses as a part of their broad liberal arts curriculum. This is the way that colleges have been since the transition from religious to secular-based institutions centuries ago, but this curriculum is changing. More and more students aren't going to college to get a broad range of knowledge of topics and learn how to think about the world. They're going to college to prepare them for a future career, just like how the original veterans under the GR Bill did. All of these factors, from student debt to cultural factors to the job market, are likely to stay around, and students are changing what they want out of college in response to that. Just like how veterans were more likely to get degrees in practical skills like business, students today are increasingly going to college for more practical majors as well. Humanities majors like English, philosophy, and sociology are falling, while majors in the rapidly growing medical and STEM fields like computer engineering and nursing are reaching all-time highs. This has led to colleges shifting focus. As the prices have soared, more and more colleges are trying to give students the return on investment that they want by broadening practical fields and closing departments related to humanities. This has led to pushback, though. Many say the critical thinking skills and understanding taught in humanities majors cannot be replaced with programming. But the rebuttal is that in the world today, not many students can afford to go to college to learn how to think. They need jobs. Another way in which colleges have been shifting their focus is in price. One reason that college increased their sticker price so much in the past is because it was a sign of quality. Students thought that if a college costed $50,000 or even $70,000 a year, they would be receiving a world-class education. This is a common assumption. If you were presented with two gold rings, one cost $10, the other cost $100, you would assume that the $100 gold ring was made of real gold, the $10 ring was not. But these sticker prices have become a double-edged sword for many colleges and universities. Once a student is accepted into a college, the price normally goes down through scholarships and grants. But that sticker price can shock prospective students from even applying in the first place. Across the country, many universities are seeking to boost enrollment by slashing the sticker price. Roanoke College in Virginia and LaSalle University in Massachusetts being some examples. Even public colleges are acknowledging the rising costs of tuition. Public university systems in Virginia, Wisconsin, and New York have frozen tuition. This is all in an effort to boost applications and enrollments and keep doors from shutting down. Alright, let's take a step back for a second. I found a lot of information at you all at once, so I want to take a moment to return to our original question. Today, right now, in the United States, is going to college worth it? This is a very individualized question, so I won't attempt to answer it, but I want to give you all the tools you will need to decide this question for yourselves. Let's recap all the facts. Number 1, college is expensive. The average cost of a 4-year college tuition, whether that be in-state, out-of-state, or private, is well over $100,000, and that is more money than many students and families are willing to pay. In the past, many students were willing to take out loans and go into debt to cover the cost of tuition, but with the ramifications of the student debt crisis all around us, many students are no longer willing to take the gamble. Alright, fact number 2. It is fairly easy to get a decent paying job nowadays. Just like in the past when someone could walk into a factory straight out of high school and earn enough to support themselves, today it is fairly easy to walk into, say, an Amazon warehouse or some other unskilled job where the minimum wage is high and earn enough to support oneself. Even though those with a college degree earn on average more than those without a college degree, that only comes after years of schooling and perhaps some debt. For many students, $1 today is worth more than $2 in some debt tomorrow. Fact number 3. College right now is changing. The overturn of affirmative action could shape the demographic makeup of college campuses for decades to come, and this can make it harder for minority students, especially Black and Hispanic students, to get into top colleges or even earn scholarships. This alone could discourage some students from pursuing the traditional bachelor's degree. People are no longer going to college to learn. They're going to college to get jobs. This change really started after the GI Bill was passed, but has recently exploded in the past few years due to rising STEM majors and viral stories about philosophy PhDs driving for Uber. With the cost of college high, many students want to see a return on investment, and that means getting a well-paying job right after college. This can mean that students who want to study humanities, foreign languages, sociology, and English, or even who want to remain decided for a large part of their college career, might not see college as a good investment for them. Another way colleges are responding to this is through the tuition cuts and freezes. Colleges are not static entities. Instead, they are institutions, and right now they are rapidly evolving in order to draw the most amount of students into their doors. With all the facts on the table, let me ask you a question. Right now, I am 17 years old and in my final year of high school, and you probably are not. If you and I were to switch places, so if you went from being a nurse in Maryland or a pharmacist in Quebec to being an American teenager on the cusp of adulthood, what would you do? Would you apply to an affordable state school close to home and major in something that paid 6 figures right after graduation? Would you hedge your bets with a humanities major or grad school and expensive out-of-state college and hope that you work hard enough to get one of the few available jobs that pay enough to afford your loans? Or would you take your high school diploma and try to find a job? Feel free to call or text me anytime to talk about what you would do. I'm in the middle of this decision right now, and Lord knows I need all the advice I can get. Anyway, that's the end of our show for today. I would like to thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed the video format. Filming this was really fun, but editing will certainly be time consuming. I hope to do this all again though, so be sure to stay tuned on the Daily Sunrise website or on a YouTube channel for the next edition of the Daily Sunrise podcast. Au revoir.